Hello friends, welcome to Scienceteen. In the last lecture we were just discussing about the different theories of time and the different philosophies. So we were discussing about the Mc.Taggart's Unreality of Time. So in the year 1908, J.M.E Mc.Taggart came up with his paper on the unreality of time. In which he gave the idea that time has both the characteristics of being present and not present. So time has characteristic of being present and not present. That is past or future. So to explain this, he said that events happen in time in two types of series. So one is A series, the first is A series and the second is B series. So just let's understand what is A series and B series. To understand this, we will take an example of an event like World War I. Then this lecture, and then last human on Earth dies. So there are three events. We are discussing A series. So we are assigning naming these events as P, Q and R. So these are our three events. Now you can say that this it gives some kind of tense which is past. This is present and this is future. Now the same event can be explained or can be presented in a different manner, which is also called B series. So this will be our B series. So what is B series? The same event we can say that World War I was before this lecture. This lecture was after World War I, and the last human on Earth dies is after World War I. You can also tell that this was after lecture 1, so that doesn't matter. So now if you closely notice, you will find a difference in the two kinds of series. So what is the basic difference? First of all, why we are discussing this in theory of relativity? Because with this B series there is associated a theory which is called B theory, and this is the theory basically which is used in physics. So physicists, you can say the physicists are basically B theorists. That's why we are discussing this here. So what is the basic difference between this A series and B series? So when we define these events in A series, so for example this event P, now this P event has certain properties associated with it. For example, P is past. P has the property past. Okay. Q has the property present, and R has the property of future. Now at some different moment in time, it has also the property of being present. At the time of World War I, it has the property of being present, and before World War, the same event had the property of being in future. So you can see that the same event P has all the three characteristics, which is being present and not present. Okay. And same for all the events. Okay, this lecture has the property present now, but after some time it will become it will have the characteristics of being not present. Now come to the B series. In B series you will find that that the three events has their properties constant. They are not changing these properties. For example, before this lecture, we are saying that it was before this lecture, so it will always be before this lecture. And World War I, this lecture is after World War I, so it will always have this static property of being after the World War I. It is not going to change its property. So it has a constant property of being after World War I. But in A series, it is changing its property with respect to past, present and future. But in B series, it has static properties. Like you can consider that there are three blocks, A, B and C. Okay. So A, B and C, like consider some direction. Okay, in this direction. So C is after B and B is after A and A is before B. So they are not moving. Their positions are fixed here. It is here, it is here, and it is here, and it will always remain here. And in another kind of theory, in A kind of series, you will find that this A is changing its position of the property from being present, being in future to present, and then becoming past. So you can say that in B series it's like being static in nature, but static in the kind, you can say it is changing. Its properties are constant. The property of being in some moment is constant, but in A series you find that it is changing its property from future to present to past. So this is one thing. The another thing is that in A series it is using the property of only one instant. A series is using on property of only one instant, but the B series is using two instants. So let's see this. For example, this P event, it is just using a reference. You can take the reference, for example, this present. So from present moment, it is always before this present moment. So it is with the reference to this present, always with the reference to the present. So we need only one instant of time to define all these events. But in B series, you will find that we need two instances in time. For example, this is one instant and this is one instant. You are referring this instant with the help of this. So this is relational in nature. You are using two instants to give their temporal positions. Now, but it is not so in A series. So this is the basic difference in A series and B series. From here, you will find that B series is basically tenseless. It is tenseless. It does not need something to be changing. There is no change. It does not need any concept of tense. But A series is using the concept of tense. So this is the major difference in these two kinds of series. Now in real world, you find that time is all about change. The events are happening. We find that everything is changing. So how can it be static in nature? Like these objects which are just arranged in space and they are not changing their positions. So it looks like that B theory is not such an appropriate theory, or B theory cannot solely explain the happening of events in the real world. All the physicists are using this theory. We will come to that, but for now on we can see that B theory is not self-sufficient to explain the change to explain the change, the property that time represents a change in our real world. So B theory basically lacks this idea of change. So B theory lacks the idea of any change. No change. It does not tell you that there is some change happening in time. So we come back to A theory, in which we know that every event is changing its property from being present to being in future to present to past. So it looks like that this theory has basic idea of some change happening when the events are happening. So this argument is basically called the ultimacy argument. So this is called ultimacy argument. So we will come to that. So till now we have seen how the Cambridge idealist J.M.E Mc.Taggart he gave his first argument that time that the events happen in two kinds of series, A series and B series. Now we will be discussing about the ultimacy argument. So you can say that this is the step 2 of his basic idea. So what is the ultimacy argument? It said that B series B series is not solely sufficient to explain time, the happening of events. We will see why it's that. An A series is the ultimate. So this is called the ultimacy argument. So why this is so? So in the B series you find that it's kind of the constancy in its nature. It does not use the idea of tense. It is being static in nature. So it basically lacks the basic property of time, which is some change. There is no change happening in B series. The events are just some kind of order in time, but there is no change. They are just one after the other, but there is no kind of motion or change. But in A series we find that there is change. The properties of time, properties of the event, which are present, past and future, every event changes its property from being in future to present to becoming a past. So it seems like the A series is explaining the change. It has the it's all about in change, and it is being static in nature. So on this basis, the A series can better explain the happening of events, or A series can better explain the properties of time. So this is the ultimacy argument. Now considering that and one more thing is that that B series needs every B series needs an A series. The notion that the events are before or after, basically in the background it is using the basic idea of the A series, but A series is not dependent on any manner on the B series. So it's like from A, B is coming, but from B, A is not coming. So this is the basic idea, and so it's the supremacy of the B series of the A series over B series. So now to discard the idea of time, to prove that time is unreal, we will have to just discard that the A series is not appropriate to explain the basic properties of time. So now we will discuss the unreality of time. So what is this unreality of time? Let's see this. For example, the event World War I, which we assigned a letter P. So this event P is past. So it has the property of being past, but at some moment of time it was present, and at some later moment of time it was also future. So the same event has the property of being past, present and future. That is, it is present and also not present. So it is self-contradictory in nature. The idea of event, any event in, or the idea of time in a series is self-contradictory in nature. So for example, just if x is equal to 2, so x cannot be equal to 3. So if the World War I or the P event has the property of being past, so how it can be also present, and it can also be a future. But to explain this, you can easily say that the same event P was present or past or future, but at different moments of time, not at the same moment of time. So there is no contradiction. But for that, you will have to assume that time passes. You are not proving that time passes, you are just assuming that time passes. So we, in no manner we can prove that time is passing or time is flowing. We are just assuming. So the basic idea of time is based on some assumption. If the basic idea of time is based on some assumption, how it can be real? So this is basically called the unreality of time, according to J.M.E Mc.Taggart. So now I will conclude what we have discussed today. So basically I said that the B series is not solely sufficient to describe time, and for every B series in the background we have an A series. So for every B series we have an A series. Every B series depends on some kind of A series. So now this A series, it has both the idea of being present and not present. So according to the A series, the basic idea of time is self-contradictory in nature. To explain that it is present and not present, we say that it is present at and not present at different moments of time. But for that you have to assume that time flows. So the notion of time in A series is self-contradictory, and it's not satisfying the properties of real quantity. That is, it should not contradict in any manner, but it is self-contradictory. The idea of time is self-contradictory in the A series. So finally the time becomes an unreal quantity according to the Mc.Taggart's paper. So this is the basic idea about the unreality of time. In the next lecture we will be discussing about a few more theories on time, and after that we will start Galilean transformation. So please like, share and subscribe to our channel, and thanks.